Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Yeah, strap in your seatbelts, everyone, because this is going to be one of the greatest episodes of the Welsh Yogi Podcast that ever existed. We're coming to you live from Bayview House. My name is Back the Rooper.
Are we live, are we?
We are in the world of showbiz. This is live. It's me, Back the Rooper, and today we've got Gopal Roy, the man, the myth, and the legend, coming straight from Swansea streets, all the way.
Boom, 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 bada boom, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. And today we haven't fully planned what we're going to talk about, but hopefully it will manifest like a beautiful unfurling lotus flower before your very ears. We've both been practicing Bhakti yoga in the past 2 weeks since the last podcast, right, Gopa? Trying to practice.
Been trying. A few ups and downs, but we're getting there.
And what that involves is getting up early, chanting Hare Krishna mantra on some Hare Krishna mantra beads, saying some prayerful prayers, reading. I tell you what, these books, Srila Prabhupada's books, I've been reading some of them recently. Started Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is it's the golden books about the golden monk, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Have you read Chaitanya Charitamrita?
I read it once.
You've
2
read it
years
once
ago.
already, yeah.
I blasted through it though. Like I read it in 1 month during lockdown last year. So now I'm taking my time, and it's
I'm reading it as well at the minute.
confidential reasons for his appearance. That's what I'm reading now. It's mind-blowing stuff.
I'm reading where Lord Chaitanya, when he'd do his tour of southern India, and when he would be so attractive and effulgent, you know, he would go and he would do this everywhere. Every village he went to, he would be chanting the Maha Mantra.
Yeah.
And actually, it specifically says he'd be chanting another song which goes Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshama Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava. And people would be so ecstatic by hearing that they would want to just follow him. You know, I want to give up my family, my job, and just follow you.
So don't be confused if you got that feeling when you heard Gopal singing. That's natural.
Yeah, like if you feel like deep pronunciation into your heart, then don't worry, because Lord Chaitanya says, well, actually, no, you just carry on with your job, carry on with your family. You don't need to change anything in order to radically spiritualize your life. Actually, you just read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, chant the Maha Mantra, and just talk about Krishna to everyone you know. Yara deha kaha ka Krishna upadesh, amanya guru hare tare desha. You actually become guru, and you talk about Krishna and deliver everyone in this land. Yeah,
and it's a real process, you know. But Gopal, I was wondering, because listeners might not know who Lord Chaitanya is. I
don't know I don't think we should get into it.
No, I'm just saying. Okay, Lord Chaitanya, he bought the Hare Krishna mantra, and he gave.
I mean, that sounds wrong to not say.
No, I just give a very brief summary, right? So he's actually it's described in the Vedas that there's as many incarnations of God as there are ripples on a stream.
Oh, here we go. This is going to take ages.
No, it's not. Trust me. So so Lord Chaitanya is actually like an incarnation of God that gave the capacity for us to understand God, because people born of our nature can't understand God. Do you know that, Gopal? Like I read it and it hurt me. It's because we're so like materialistic. We're brought up in such a materialistic way. There's absolutely no way that we can understand God. So that's why whenever someone tries to like tell us about God, we're like, ugh, what are you talking about? Like that's very unattractive to me. You know, I've been finding that on the street recently. Just been going out on the street. People are like, no, I'm not religious. Get away from me. You look like a freak. Been getting a heavy duty treatment.
Is that people say you look like a freak?
Yeah, someone yesterday in Bath was like, "You look like a freak."
That's fair.
It just started screaming at me, and I was like,
because you were wearing your robes, or just because of your face?
Robes.
Just so you look, or just because your robes?
Combination of both.
I don't know, because you're quite a handsome chap. You're handsome, and the robes always look nice.
Yeah.
So maybe he was just having a bad day.
Yeah. So I think it was my own consciousness as well. Like, because for me, it's like, I'm like internally, I'm not a monk. Like my robes, like I'm wearing this outfit, right?
Uh-huh.
But my mind is not there. Like my mind's on all kinds of materialistic things. Like I want to be a painter and a poet and an artist and a rapper, and I want to be everything else but a monk.
Is that materialistic though? If you want to do it for Krishna?
Yeah, in one sense not. But what I'm saying is like, I'm like,
in
my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm wearing these robes, but I'm a pretender, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like, maybe she picked up on that, and that's why she was shouting at me, saying you look like an idiot.
I don't know.
Either way. But I just
when people say that to me on the street, I just go woo, and that really just annoys them.
Yeah. So like, anyway, back to what I was saying. Most people in this age, they can't understand God, no matter what. There's no way of like scientifically understanding what God is. But an incarnation appeared 500 years ago, the golden monk, Lord Chaitanya, and he appeared with this mission to allow us very materialistic folk to enter into that science of God, you know, and him and his companions, the Panchatattva, they came and they bought this, and they bought it in such an ecstatic way you can't even imagine. Like Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva, they'd go around just like chanting Hare Krishna in complete ecstasy. And every single person that would hear them chanting, it would melt their hearts, you know. They'd go through the villages and people would open their doors and their life would be changed forever. Just hearing this sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra, you know. And used to have ecstatic kirtans. Like if you've ever been to T Krishna on a Sunday, where we were going wild, right? Singing Hare Krishna and dancing. They did that, but in like another level way. It's cool. So anyway, me and Gopal are reading that book about Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya, the Golden Monk.
Yeah.
It's good to hear about him, because just by hearing about him, you know.
I mean, you could give a whole podcast on Lord Chaitanya.
Oh, easy peasy.
I mean, that's that's one of the important elements is that, really get into it now. When
sorry,
because to actually, when one uncovers the original love of the soul that the soul has for Krishna, then that experience is so intense and so ecstatic that even Krishna himself wants to experience it.
Yeah.
So in order to understand what it's like to love himself, then he comes as Lord Chaitanya and experiences these ecstatic symptoms and this extreme spiritual ecstasy of what it's like to be a lover of Krishna. And then because you get love for Krishna has such an effect that it becomes intoxicating, like any other intoxicant, and then one just wants everyone to taste it, and the more you taste it and distribute it, the more it increases, and it's quite a very intense experience.
And that's what we're kind of trying to do, right? When we're giving out the books and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's the secret of, at least the, Bhakti Yoga practice is that there is an element of actual experience and taste. Spiritual, like we said before, spiritual life isn't something that, okay, I just cross my fingers, I hope that is all true. This is my faith or my belief that I prescribe to, and then, I've tagged myself, Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Buddhist. I've tagged myself for this religion, and then when I die, then I just hope it's all true, and then I hope I pick the right one. But actual bona fide, religion or yoga, so to speak, one should, you should be experiencing yourself spiritually advance, experiencing your consciousness elevate as you practice. And that's why, most, serious Bhakti Yoga practitioners, they've had different levels of genuine first-hand experience of the process working, and that is what gives you faith, and then you carry on sort of evolving and flourishing as you continue your spiritual journey.
It's like an upward march, right? Like you keep getting invited to take the next step. So for instance, like say you just start getting into it, maybe you're chanting 4 to 8 rounds every day. At some point someone's going to say, listen, you want to take it to the next level, you want to level up this, you want to increase this experience, then it's time to chant 16 rounds or whatever, or it's time to make the next step. I feel like this is a big thing, is like we get invited to take the next step, and based on if we do it or not dictates our experience.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, wasn't it, that by our own qualification we can't actually understand the Supreme by our own sort of quality, but so the limited cannot understand the limited by definition of our own limited qualification.
The limited can't understand the unlimited.
Cannot understand the unlimited. But the unlimited, being unlimited, has the ability and the right and the potency to make itself available to the limited. Does that make sense? So that's how, yes, by our own qualification, you can't understand the Supreme, or use the word God. So then, but God can make himself understood. Yeah. And then that is that's how we started talking about Lord Chaitanya. And then then like you say, invite you to take the next step. So it's like a learning, like if you go to school, then you have once you've learned one lesson, you learn another. You have your basic mathematics, and you have your advanced algebra. So, the spiritual life is the soul understanding more and more about this supreme and limitedly attractive person, whose one of the many names is Krishna, which means extremely unlimitedly attractive. But yeah, as you take, there's steps to take, but then there's also, one can also, there's slips and there's difficulties, and one can trip, and one, as in anything, then, success actually depends on if one can, when they fall, just get themselves back up and carry on going,
Like that, when you actually, because you feel it sometimes, like, okay, I need to change this up to move on. Like you feel like your wheels are spinning, you're just in a stagnant place. Like I need to change something inside, like my mentality, something. But like sometimes that change is really scary, right? Because it's like you're attached to something. You feel like you're gonna lose something, like I feel like now I'm in the ashram now, and I need to like lean into it rather than just cling on to it, if you get me. Like I need to put my shoulder into it a little bit more and actually embrace the experience. Yeah,
I like, what did you say earlier? There's times when you feel like called to, didn't you say something like that? Like
called to take the next step, you mean? Like,
yeah. So it is, that's why it takes time to sort of, like when you're driving a car, once you know the basics of how to do it, then no one can, you have to know for yourself when to put your foot on the accelerator, when to brake, or when to slow down, so it's like that. There'll be different times when, I really got to go to the next level now, so I got to really lean in, I got to really take, find some extra spiritual practices that I can put into my life. And there'll be other times when, if I can just maintain this for some time, then I'll be doing well. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very good sort of instructions to the beginner yogi. Krishna is speaking to Uddhava, and one of the things he says is that if one can actually evaluate about where they are in spiritual life, what stage you're at, and understanding where that is and what you have to do in order to take the next step, no matter what level you're on, then that's a good qualification. You want to try your best every day, but each day your best will be different. Your best will change every day. some days your best will be just getting out of bed in the morning and just going through the motions, and other days your best will be,
Yeah, something good.
like a shooting star. So you're saying at the minute you're thinking that you feel like going more into spiritual practices to really feel yourself level up, or?
No, I think like more like actively cultivate and develop certain qualities which are lacking. Like for instance, kind of like Brahminical qualities, like more cleanliness, more like almost like more humility. Like when someone tells me to do something, don't push back on it so much and just be like, okay, I'm going to do this. Do you know what I mean? Because I got quite a lot of pushback. I'm quite messy, and you know what I mean? There's qualities where the monk ashram, the brahmachari ashram, is pretty good for cultivating those qualities, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the point in... I mean, we've talked about this quite a lot, haven't we? This cosmic sensitivity training. That's why, I mean, humility and loving service are things that just as conditioned souls we have to learn in this life, or the next life, or the next life. At some point you have to learn humility and surrender and loving service. So that's why you have the you know, an archaic sort of, and today we luckily have a sort of a pocket of sort of where, you know, some young man can practice that. At least in Wales, you have the Brahmachari ashram, where you can practice voluntary love, service, and surrender. And then if we can get that, then throughout their life they can continue being a monk with love, service, and surrender. But then that's why you have, like, you know, a lot of monks will maybe become, you know, family men or family women, and because then you're forced, if you can't know it voluntarily, then you're forced, you know, if you're married and you have children, you're forced to do love, service, and surrender. You know, if we can't do it when the guru says, then okay, we'll be forced to do it by, you know, okay, like having a child. You know, my brother recently had a baby, him and his wife. They got born probably a few days ago. Thank you very much. It was hard work, but it has been done. And so I'm now uncle.
Congrats.
Uncle Gopal. Thank you.
Whatever.
And so yeah, now it's a whole different part of life where you have to surrender your sleep, surrender your life. You have to constantly pay attention to this other living being, you know. So that's you know, so that's a lesson. Okay, this is what it's like to surrender to someone, to really love someone. Something that at some point in our lives, that's what the whole Vedic society is. So eventually we learn to what it's like to surrender, and eventually we have to learn how to surrender and to love Krishna.
Yeah, because that example, it seems a lot more easy to love and surrender to a small child, because it literally relies on you. You know, it's there and you have to serve it. But like loving and surrendering to God is a lot more of a subtle thing.
Yeah, it is. But also, in one sense, I mean, that's why, like, you probably don't, you know, Westerners, we don't see it so much unless we go into a Hare Krishna temple. But if you go into many, like, we go visit a lot of people, and a lot of them are Indian families, and they have deities in the house. So that's why we have the deity, because that's completely, you know, the deity is like a, you know, people might misunderstand it as some sort of idol or something, but actually it's a, you know, it's a manifestation of Krishna that's appeared as like a, you know, a certain form that is, you know, we clothe, we bathe, and we direct our love to, and it is completely dependent on us. So that's a good way to, you know, practice, get us into that headspace.
In one sense, but like it's very easy, because I was never raised with deities. Like, I was never raised with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I feel it.
It's
I'm
not
like,
relatable, is it?
yeah. Sometimes I'm like on the vibe of it. Like, yeah, this is awesome. Like when we're in the temple, we got the deities. We're all like dancing. But sometimes I'm just like, it flicks back. Like, it's a brass statue. Like, you know, like, I'll be honest. Like, this, I'm just like, I know it's not, like, intellectually, but for me, where I'm at, it's a brass statue at the moment. So for me to, because you need some kind of connection, some kind of, like, we've got this baby, easy, right? There's a baby there, and it immediately reciprocate. If you poke it, it will cry or whatever. the deity is like if you're not like in the right headspace, it turns back to brass.
Yeah. Which, that's why there's the element of purification of your heart.
Yeah.
When Shukadeva Goswami was a great yogi and sage, and he was speaking to this Parikshit Maharaj king. We've spoken about this before, and he was saying and the king was wondering, well, why? Basically, he said that one actually has more attachment to the Supreme than even oneself or one's family, because they're the closest thing to oneself, really. But because we misidentify self with our body, we start to get attachment to other bodies that are in relationship with our body. And that's why, I look after my kid, but like I'm not looking after my brother's kid or some kid I find on the street or some other, because it's not so closely related to my body. So there's an element that because we have bodily attachment and things related to our body, we hold very, very dear, and things that aren't related, we don't worry so much. But yeah,
I'm just because like I'm sure people like have had a similar experience. Like they get into the bhakti, into the spiritual stuff, they get into it, but then like this feeling of connection, like you feel disconnected again. Yeah. And if you're not like surrounded by it, you could easily just stay disconnected.
That's why you need elements of spiritual practice, and that's why it's called yoga. This art of connection, and Bhakti yoga is that art of loving connection between us and the Supreme. So we have to work on it. It's like real love. Okay, it takes work. You understand that. Okay, if one's a Bhakti yogi, for example, okay, the goal of my spiritual life is to reawaken my eternal love for Krishna. And then that love will sometimes start to manifest, or some priti or some affection will start to manifest, and that's what inspires one on the path, like we said earlier, and sometimes it'll get covered. Which is why Krishna talks about, in the Bhagavad Gita, he talks about Buddhi Yoga, or the yoga of, using one's intelligence to direct one's spiritual practice. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like with any relation. Okay, we say if there's a husband and wife, without that dedication there, like you make vows, because it's understood that, okay, this feeling at the minute, this loving feeling, sometimes it'll go, sometimes it'll be there, sometimes it won't. When it's not there, then what keeps you in the relationship? If one's just relying on flippant feelings, and that's how relationships break apart, because there's no trust and sort of dedication there. So the same thing with, okay, we got a relationship with Krishna, we're practicing Bhakti Yoga, so there has to be some, that's why if, when one takes the path very seriously, then they do make vows, because you're showing some commitment. Because with commitment and dedication, then real love starts to become manifest. But if we rely too much on our just flippant feelings, then our mind and senses and our feelings will drag us around everywhere, and you won't get anywhere. If you went to school and all you relied on was your feelings, and you didn't have teachers to discipline you, or parents to make sure you go to school and study, then we wouldn't have got anywhere. We wouldn't have had any qualifications. And people who really want to get places in this world by academia, they know that, okay, yeah, you need to sacrifice, you need to study, you need to forego immediate pleasures for pleasures in the future. And in Sanskrit, it talks about in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have, what's the word, Shreyas, and Shreyas means your topmost benefit. And then there's another word, I can't remember, but that means just immediate benefit, like a child will just be like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but will have no intelligence about what's good for itself in the future. So that's why there has to be some sort of intelligence, understanding, in order to know, okay, in the future, this is what I have to do now, so I can experience, so I can maximize experiences in the future. Yeah,
and it's like reminds me of exactly what I'm reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like Krishna is like the sun, and it might appear that the sun is covered by the clouds.
Yes,
but actually the sun isn't covered by the clouds. It's just our perspective in relation to the sun is that there's clouds in the way, So like sometimes it is like that. It's just like there's no connection. These deities have become brass. Well, like these clothes, I'm this isn't me. Like, I'm not a monk. You know, like all of this cloud in the way. It's just like, I can't see anything. But then when you read something, like when I read the books and when I try and like ask Srila Prabhupada, who's written these books and who's connected to me through these books, like, please, like, help me find this reconnection. You realize that there are personalities out there that are beyond the clouds, just like when you fly in an airplane above the clouds. Oh, the sun was there all along, you know. And by hearing their words, their sound vibrations, you get transported to that perspective, and you realize there is a sun there. And although I'm below the clouds, I've always got a relationship with the sun, you know.
It's a good point. You know, it's like, that's why previous experience and intelligence, like by previous experience, you know that there's the sun there and that clouds come to cover the sun. So when a cloud comes, just with a very minimum amount of intelligence, you can know, okay, the sun hasn't been destroyed. You know, it's just a cloud. Yeah. And then when the cloud goes, the sun will come back. So similarly, if one has previous, you know, genuine spiritual experience, which is why it's important to actually get, then when these things happen, like, okay, I've lost some sort of loving feeling or etc., one will know then, okay, this is just the cloud of the material association that's currently covering me. So one doesn't freak out about it. One doesn't all of a sudden think, oh my God, like, oh, the clouds here is going to be here forever. And one understands, okay, sometime it'll pass. So yeah, by some minimum discrimination, one can get over these little, you know, because one will have little clouds and dry patches while they're practicing spiritual life, but one has to be able to, yeah, live through them.
Interesting. So you just carry on? Is it? What's your method of when the clouds cover you? How do you deal with it?
I mean, it's a bit tricky. It's not, because it's not a perfect analogy, but you do experience little, might be spells in spiritual life where you do things out of duty rather than just like spontaneous inspiration. But I mean, if I was going to talk personally, I mean, I had enough sort of experiences in my initial sort of steps in spiritual life where there might have been some really tough times, but just out of almost, desperation, I, internally sort of, just really sort of prayed to Krishna, if you will, and got through them and really just got reciprocation on a level that has made me understand that, this is more than just about me experiencing any happiness or pleasure, but actually this is me building a relationship. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to build a relationship with someone, you don't always rely on that person giving you pleasure or reciprocating with you. Actually, you trying to sort of serve that person or help a person gives you enough happiness and pleasure that actually sustains you. So, that's why there's a relationship. So if one isn't getting isn't feeling the bliss, which will happen sometimes, and still you carry on performing your service, performing your spiritual practice, and just trust that the bliss will come. After some time, then we should feel so much attachment for Krishna that even if just doing the activities that please the Lord will give us enough happiness, because we know that Krishna is pleased. I don't know if that make any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's interesting though, because it is actually a blessing in disguise when these kinds of things happen. When you feel a bit disconnected, or because everything's organized for your own personal advancement, and actually, if you can even be grateful for it when it happens, I'll be honest, I've just been getting absolutely smashed on book distribution. Just completely, everyone ignores me and looks at me like I'm a weird evil person. I'm selling no books, nothing's happening, and I'm just there this is like horrible because it's my nightmare job, like materially speaking, like trying to stop people and like give them books. It's a nightmare job. But then when you do it for Krishna in that spiritual way, it becomes the most like amazing, blissful, like how the heck am I meeting these people at the perfect time? Like you become like an instrument, like an instrument for something very powerful and very beautiful. But then when it stops happening and you're just left with that side of it, it's like, oof.
Yeah,
but like being grateful. That's what I was being grateful for that. It kind of helps out a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and because I was thinking earlier when I said it wasn't a perfect analogy because the sun gets blocked by the cloud, right? But you know, if we use the analogy saying, okay, say if the sun is, you know, the supreme, the sun is Krishna. Well, Krishna actually never, in one sense, he's never blocked, like you're saying, you know, we're out in book distribution. Well, you know, we always have the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, that's what I was going to say as well. So when times when I really thought, okay, where am I? I'm just in the dark here. Then you can always pick up a Bhagavad Gita, like you said earlier, you know, be reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because the Bhagavad Gita, for example, Gita means song, and Bhagavan is the supreme, is Krishna. So you can always pick up and hear Krishna sing. And what's Arjuna? He feels despondent. He feels okay, what do I do? You know, the love is gone here. I look like I have to perform an activity that I see no good out of this at all. And then Krishna, step by step, he gives Arjuna the enthusiasm and the intelligence by which to know what to do and to know how to do it properly. Kamani vidikaraste mapalistu kadachana. Sometimes you just have to perform your duty, not be attached to results. You know, Krishna says, you know, there's that famous verse, Marcha Smarsha Kunti Asidusa Shukadukada. Happiness and distress, they come like the winter and summer season. Sometimes sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not, you know. But the next verse, I can't remember. Vinartite Nesu Dehi. I used to know it. But the next verse, Krishna says, if one can do that, if you can just tolerate happiness and distress and carry on performing your duty, then the doors of liberation become open. Yeah. So when I used to have tough time, I always used to listen to lectures. Yeah. I used to plug in Vaisheshika Guru and I just used to hear a lot from, you know, lectures from Devamrita Swami, you know, my spiritual master Shivram Swami, or, you know, Srila Prabhupada. Used to read the books. So it's like, okay, the sun is covered by cloud, but I've got little, you know, I got sunshine in a bag. So I can open my little bag, and they got little bags of sunshine, little books of sunshine.
The future is coming on, is coming on.
So you got little pockets of sunshine that you can always, you know, dip into. Yeah. You know, and that's the more you practice Bhakti Yoga, the more and more you collect these little jewels of sunshine that you can always just open up your box. And
listeners, if you want some sunshine, go on YouTube and type in "following Srila Prabhupada" and watch one of those videos. Like, that is another level. Like, if you just watch it. Honestly, I'm not going to say anything more about it, but following Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, yeah.
That's my thing. But yeah, thanks, Gopal.
Thank you. I think we'll save this for another time.
Yeah.
I think we've done what we had planned. You know, at the start of the podcast, we said this was like planned and what we had, but we'll have to talk about that next time, I think.
Yeah. We could have some potential guests coming up soon as well, but we'll see what happens.
We keep saying that, and we keep promising.
Hey, yeah, soon.
Mishani, she couldn't make it today, but she said next week. She got a cold, so.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. Thanks for listening.
And also, we've got a retreat this weekend, so when we next do a podcast, it'll either be at the retreat or after, so we can let you know how it all goes.
With Adi Carter, maybe. Anyway, thanks everybody. Adi Carter.
Hare Krishna. We've been the Welsh Yogis, and lots of love. Speak to you all soon.
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Radha Shivasari Gopavrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gopavrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare